Hi, I'm Claire Corrado, and I'm here today to talk with you about one potential strategy you might be able to use to help push your removal of conditions case through faster. So a lot of times with immigration, we're sort of at the mercy of USCIS, and if case times are long, we just have to wait for a decision, and there's not much else we can do. And yes, that's still true in this case. However, some people who have removal of conditions cases pending actually have an additional action that they can take that will help their case get through faster. So whenever we have insider tips like that, we like to share them with you all. And so here it is. If your removal of conditions is pending and you become eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship through naturalization, then the strategy is to go ahead and apply for naturalization even though you have not yet received a decision on your removal of conditions. What? How is that possible? Many of you might be thinking, how could you naturalize and become a U.S. citizen before you actually even remove the conditions on your green card? And truthfully, you can't complete the naturalization process before you get the conditions removed. However, the way the system is currently set up, USCIS will allow you to apply for naturalization before you get a decision on removal of conditions. And because of the way that these two different types of cases, the naturalization cases and the removal of conditions cases, are processed, there's actually an advantage in processing time to doing that. So to understand why that gives you an advantage, we actually have to talk a little bit about how these two different kinds of cases are processed. There are a couple of different kinds of offices in USCIS. They have what are called field offices, which are the local offices where there are officers that meet with the public for different purposes. So whenever you have an interview, you actually have to go and see USCIS, or they're going to be stamping your passport or something like that, you would go to a field office. But there are other processing locations in the United States that aren't open to the public. They're not set up for interviews. They're basically like huge warehouses full of many, many files that are waiting to be processed, and they have employees that are processing them, but it's just a totally different kind of office. For naturalization applications, they're always going to be completed by a field office where there are officers that meet with the immigrants themselves, because naturalization does require that final interview and that civics and history test and English test to happen before the decision can be made. On the other hand, the vast majority of the removal of conditions cases, especially if you are married to a U.S. citizen, you're still together and you filed jointly, the vast majority of those files are going to these kind of like warehouse processing locations to someday be looked at by an officer. So what happens when you have a removal of conditions case that is sitting in a warehouse somewhere, and it has been for a while, and then you apply for naturalization, is that your naturalization case is going to be sent to a field office where they can set up your interview. If they haven't decided on the removal of conditions case, they're going to say, oh no, actually, we have to make a decision on the removal of conditions case before we can make a decision on the naturalization case. So in practicality, what USCIS does is they actually pull that removal of conditions case file out of the warehouse, and they bundle it together with your naturalization case and send it to a field office where an officer will make a decision on both at your interview. So I've had a lot of clients in this situation where we did apply for naturalization, and the naturalization interview actually came before they had a removal of conditions decision. And so that decision was actually made at the naturalization interview. And so they were not naturalized before the removal of conditions happened, but they were able to get both decisions made and become U.S. citizens and not have to worry about their pending immigration cases, which I know is a stage you all are looking forward to living. So, caveats and some thoughts about when this is a good idea and when it's not a good idea. First of all, this only works if you're definitely eligible for both benefits. So if you have a very complex removal of conditions case, you might want to be careful about making it any more complicated and talk with a lawyer. You want to make sure that you're also eligible to naturalize, because if you're filing too early or you don't meet all the requirements, then this isn't a helpful thing to do. It's just going to waste time and money and make it more complicated. If you're not sure if you're eligible to naturalize, it's something you would want to talk with someone on our team or another qualified immigration lawyer to figure out whether this could work for you or there would be any issues with it. So you have to be eligible for both. It's going to be more helpful if you happen to live in an area where your local field office is processing naturalization applications faster than the processing times for removal of conditions. So it'd still be fine, even if that weren't the case. But in terms of strategy to get your removal of conditions to go through faster, it would definitely be more helpful if you happen to live around a field office that does naturalization within a few months. There are some locations in the US that are that quick. And then there are other places where it's a year or longer and you might not see quite the same gains. But either way, if you go ahead and apply for naturalization while your removal of conditions is pending, it's also not a problem if you get the decision on the removal of conditions while you're waiting, then you're already in line for naturalization too, so you haven't lost any time. Hopefully, this is just a suggested option for some of you that may help you spend less time overall processing in the US immigration system, and we wish you a lot of luck on your case.